Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to an all-new reaction and review. Tonight, guys, I'm taking a look at a Japanese comedy from 2007. A movie that, about a year ago, a lot of you guys were requesting that I do. And I actually found a copy of it at Family Video for about $2, about 6 months ago. And I bought it then, never got around to covering it. Tonight is the night. The movie is called Big Man Japan. Now, I had no idea what the fuck this movie was about when you guys were first asking about it. In fact, just now, 6 months after spending $2 on it, I finally read the back. Shows you exactly how it really shows you exactly how much shit I genuinely look into when buying stuff for this series. And what I'm sort of grasping based on the back is that it's basically a parody of stuff similar to Ultraman. That whole genre of stuff you can get over in Japan. Now, I should mention that I'm referencing Ultraman, even though I've never seen anything from Ultraman. I've just seen other parodies and references to it, and I'm kind of, using those to connect it to this. So I could be way the fuck off on exactly what this thing is supposed to be like, mocking, parodying, referencing. I don't know. I don't care. I'm just curious if this movie itself is going to be any good. And the only way to find out is if I stop fucking babbling and I start watching it. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Big Man Japan. You guys are really going to have to forgive me for not having a whole lot to say. This movie, unfortunately, has not given me a whole lot to work with. I'm kind of hoping that it gets better, but right now, though, we are off to a real sluggish start, and I'm kind of, dreading, or almost fearing that this movie will just continue on this pace, and that's not going to be good. Alright, guys. I would like to say right now that the CG in this movie, some of the creepiest I have ever seen in any film. This movie has fucking CG which dumps itself right smack dab in the middle of the motherfucking uncanny valley and refuses to leave. And yet still it looks really cool. Cool, but still, god damn it all. Just the faces are just creepy as shit, dude. So let me see if I understand this correctly. There is a monster about to ravage the country. The filmmakers, because this whole thing, for those of you who don't know, is kind of sort of like a faux documentary, like Spinal Tap sort of thing. The filmmakers are asking them to redo this absolutely unnecessary ritual for him to transform because they wanted a better angle. I totally understand it's supposed to be funny, and it kind of is. The problem is that this film is dragging on so fucking much that, seriously, it's not really funny as much as it's almost fucking depressingly stupid. Did he just kill that monster by jamming his stick up its ass? I swear to God, guys, he just fucking defeated this monster by jamming his stick up the fucking creature's ass. That was... Jesus Christ, that was fucking disgusting. Okay. Out of all of the monster fights so far, this one is quite possibly the worst. Then again, that's because it's almost all just been a shouting match between Big Man and the stink monster. And really, it wasn't funny as much as it was just boring as shit. Now we have another monster joining in this, and this one's excessively creepy looking, and that goes far beyond the whole thing I mentioned earlier about the faces. This thing is just creepy on a whole nother fucking level, guys. Okay, so if he's holding on to his cat when he's electrocuted and turned into Big Man Japan, his house cat also turns into a giant badass looking creature. That's fucking awesome, guys. Well, guys, that was Big Man Japan. That ending was a little bit weird. There also is a little sequence here going on during the closing credits, but if you guys have watched my series for any extended period of time, for any extended length of time, rather, you know one of my rules is I stop watching the movie as soon as the closing credits roll. So I just shut off the film. Why don't we, God, I'm trying to figure out where the hell to start with this one. Well, before I get into the review, I would like to say that I understand I probably came off sounding really negative in all of my, or in at least some of my reactions. And you would probably think I would go and I'd absolutely trash a movie if I was coming off like that, but I can't bring myself to do that here. The reason is because the premise was so good, and some of the humor in this is absolutely amazing, to a point where if it wasn't for all the negatives, this would probably rank as one of my favorite movies of all time. However, the problems with this film are so mounting that it takes this fantastic premise, and it takes these awesome moments and turns in a very disappointing showing. I totally understand that I have just summed up my entire point by just saying that it's ridiculously disappointing, but I kind of want to try to explain why. So for anyone who has watched this movie and who have watched this movie before you jumped into my review and you really enjoyed it, I don't want you to think I'm going to absolutely destroy this movie. I cannot bring myself to do it. However, I am going to explain why I feel a little bit let down by it. First of all, let's start with the writing. We have to start with writing. Writing is kind of the integral positive and negative with this. Now, the story for this film, minus the ending and minus the battle sequences, it's all filmed like a faux documentary, similar to awesome films such as This Is Spinal Tap and Best in Show and A Mighty Wind, stuff like that. It is filmed in that kind of style. And the problem starts right there. The fact that when you're doing that kind of a faux documentary thing, you want the film to feel you want the dialogue to feel natural, which is normally accomplished by allowing the actors to improv. You just kind of tell them approximately where to go, and just let them meander towards said goal. Of course, that works in Spinal Tap, and that works in A Mighty Wind, and that works in Best in Show, because the cast were all very, very accomplished comedians who are all very good at improv. However, the writing here is just almost too unnatural to really have any kind of flow to it. This film really feels almost as if it were scripted to a fault. And what I mean by that is that anytime that someone is asked a question, anytime someone is questioned about anything involving the hero, involving the setting, involving how he becomes the giant monster fighting being that he is, all this other stuff, instead of it sounding almost as if someone's really, really trying to process it and trying to get something out there, instead, almost every line of dialogue where someone has to pause and think for a moment starts with the phrase, well, and then there's a slight pause, and then they launch into their dialogue, which, that might be partially the fault of the acting. It might just be how the subtitles were placed in this thing. But it just didn't feel natural to me. It really did not feel like something that would have been filmed on the spot. It really, really does feel almost as if it were way too scripted for something that's supposed to look like a natural, off-the-cuff documentary. So we do have that. The pacing in this movie, that right there is where the writing really hits its biggest issue, is with the pacing. A lot of things in this movie, pacing-wise, are just absolutely hideous. This this film, unfortunately, has what I would call glacial pacing. All right, the ending is really funny. The ending joke for the first like 3 minutes or so is absolutely hilarious. And it would have been great if that joke were only about 3 minutes long, because, well, that's really about as long as a joke like that can be. I really do not want to explain it, because I don't want to spoil the ending for anyone who hasn't watched this. But right here is the problem. Instead of taking a really tight, awesome, funny joke and compressing it down to 3 minutes in order to make it great, it drags on for almost 10 minutes. It just keeps going, and all of a sudden and then all of a sudden everything which was funny before is now tiresome, because they keep hammering on the same punchline again and again and again. And mind you, there's almost no dialogue here. The whole ending is almost all visual humor, but it's the same visual jokes time and time and time again, where all of a sudden something which is making you laugh fucking hysterically about 6 minutes ago is making you look at your watch, wondering when the hell is this gonna end. And the ending is not the only time when this happens. There are tons of sequences where things just go on and on. The first time that our hero drives to one of the power stations in order to transform into his superhero persona, they follow the entire path from the gate all the way to the plant, which is a long, arduous task, and the only reason why it's there is to show you all of the signs which are lining the road, posted there by citizens to show that they don't like this hero because of all of the property damage which he causes. So, instead of just picking up on that, like a sign here, a sign there, and then cutting right to him getting up to the base, it follows the entire path, and it takes, again, about 5 minutes for this whole fucking ride up there, and you get the point after about a minute. So again, it's like really bad pacing issues, which is probably why the film is almost 2 hours long. It's just so poorly paced, and it just feels padded, seriously. Now, I mentioned the CG earlier. I mentioned it a couple of times. I was talking about how all of the CG effects in this film are permanent residents of the fucking uncanny valley. But frankly, you kind of begin to, it really does begin to like grow on you slightly, where you then are used to it, and just as you're getting used to it, the ending fucking hits you, and then you're laughing because now the CG is gone. Again, I'm not going to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it because hey, you guys might actually have fun watching this if you ever get the chance. Now, so there is that in terms of, special effects, that they start off really, really creepy, and they just kind of like grow on you, and you get used to it. Which, mind you, now I totally understand that. It really doesn't sound good when you say that. When you say that you're gonna get used to the fucking special effects, but seriously, I want you to take that as a positive, because it is really good looking. It is good looking like CG, no matter how creepy the faces on all of these people are. Let's see. Camera work, well, camera work is pretty good, especially since it is supposed to look like a faux documentary, and there are times when you can see the cameraman in friggin', like windows and mirrors and shit, and you can tell the whole thing is filmed with a handheld camera. Again, minus the combat sequences and minus the ending. Everything else is filmed with a handheld camera, and it works. This right here is one of those instances where filming the whole thing with a handheld camera works, and works very, very well. Sound here, once more, because they were going for the whole, like faux, like documentary thing, and you can see the boom mic operator following the cameraman. The sound is sometimes a little bit iffy, and that's probably to kind of sort of show you that We have a boom mic operator who's slightly out of place because the whole thing's supposed to be improv, off the cuff, sudden interviews. So then with that, it all kind of works out. Normally, I'd bitch about the sound being like that. However, in this instance, the sound quality is not fucking like so far off that it is going to throw you completely out of the film. Now, going back to the writing, I would like to say that this film has, at times, very blisteringly funny humor, and I would love to tell you that this film is totally worth watching for just those handful of scenes. However, if you're really looking for that, there are probably videos on YouTube which have collected all of the funnier moments. And you could probably do that and then not have to bother with all of the padding and just all of the other shit which kind of plagues this movie. Again, guys, I am not going to say that this movie is awful, because it frankly is not. It's just it just wasn't my kind of film. Mind you, now you guys out there might absolutely adore this movie. You really might. As for me, well, I just could not get into it, and that is really a damned shame, because I once more have got to state that this film has one of the most creative and interesting premises I have ever seen. And if any other filmmaker ever wants to try to do a Spinal Tap style mockumentary following a superhero who is almost despised by everyone, go right ahead. I would love to see if there's any filmmaker who can take this concept and work with it and actually make it fun to me. Now, again, I bought this thing at Family Video for $2, so I honestly am not horrifically broken up over it. I really just wish that this movie was better, because I wanted to love it that much, and it's just such a disappointment to me. And yet I still feel compelled to recommend it somehow. If you guys can find this movie anywhere, check it out, because frankly, I just want you guys to see just what kind of fantastic premise we have here, as well as to just, see the ending and to just see the really blisteringly awesome humor before then. But I do have to warn you about the pacing problems, and also the fact that the ending itself just feels really, really padded. Yeah, guys, I do not think that this has ever happened where I have talked about a movie, almost everything I mentioned, or rather almost every negative is just such a big negative that it would almost be a deal breaker if it were any other film. And I all of a sudden am saying, check it out. I mean, guys, this is a very painful recommendation, because I really believe that this film can generate a fantastic audience. It's just it just kind of let me down a little bit. But I still think that there's something here. There's something here which you guys might really, really love. And I'm just going to warn you that it honestly wasn't, my sort of thing. But it's just simply because I am one of those sticklers for pacing, amongst other things. And the pacing here was just way, way too off for me. So yeah, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.